Back in 2018, I was pulling overnight shifts at a no-name 24-hour diner off Highway 17 in rural North Carolina. If you've ever driven that stretch, you know it's just woods, motels that look like murder scenes, and the occasional glowing Waffle House off in the distance like a lighthouse for the damned. This diner, Rosie's, was the kind of place that hadn't changed since 1973. Wood-paneled walls, crusty red leather booths, a jukebox that never worked, and a pie case that always looked sad and half empty. But it had regulars, truckers, night owls, lonely drunks who swore the coffee was the best around. Most nights, it was just me and the cook, Manny, chill guy, always humming old Motown songs while flipping eggs. We had our routine. I'd clean, top off the condiments, swipe through my phone, occasionally chat with whoever wandered in at 2 a.m. It wasn't glamorous, but it paid the bills, and I liked the quiet. That night though, November 3rd, I remember because I just changed the calendars. It wasn't quiet. A storm rolled in out of nowhere. One of those hard slanting rains that sounds like gravel on the windows. The wind was strong enough to make the front door rattle in its frame. Manny stepped out for his usual smoke break, said he needed a minute of peace. I stayed behind the counter doodling on a napkin, half listening to the storm and watching the parking lot lights flicker. That's when I saw him, just standing out there, right up against the big front window that faced the lot. No umbrella, no movement. He was tall, really tall, lanky, wearing this old soaking wet trench coat and a wide-brimmed hat like something out of a 1950s noir film. His face was obscured by shadows and the reflection of the inside lights on the glass, but I swear he was looking right at me. At first I thought maybe he was a traveler caught in the storm. I gave a little wave, pointed to the door. Nothing. He didn't move, didn't even blink, just kept staring like he was studying me. Something about him made my skin crawl. Not just the way he was standing there, but the stillness, like he wasn't alive in the way normal people are, like he was a photo pasted onto the window. Still trying to be polite, I went around the counter and cracked the door open. "Hey, you all right?" I called. "You need help? You want to come in and dry off?" No answer. He just looked at me. Then without a sound, he smiled. I can't really describe it. It wasn't human. His lips peeled back way too far, revealing these long yellow teeth, more like fangs, honestly. His cheeks stretched like someone had hooked his mouth and yanked it open. There was no warmth in that smile, no humanity, just a predator showing its teeth. I slammed the door and locked it without thinking. My pulse was in my throat. I turned to shout for Manny, but that's when the lights died. No flicker, no warning, just total blackness. The diner went silent except for the wind and the rain. Then came a soft, irregular clicking, like long fingernails tapping on glass. I grabbed my phone, hands shaking, and turned on the flashlight. The beam cut through the dark, catching flashes of chrome and diner booths. I did a slow circle. Nobody inside. "Manny?" I called out. No response. I stepped cautiously toward the kitchen. The swinging double doors were swaying just slightly. I pushed them open. The smell hit me first. Not blood, not food, just wet, moldy, like something had crawled up from a swamp and sat down in there. I swept the flashlight across the tile floor. That's when I saw it. A hat, his hat, wide-brimmed, drenched, sitting in the middle of the floor like it had been placed there deliberately. "Manny?" I tried again, louder. Nothing. I backed out, heart hammering, and called the police. Told them someone was outside, lights were out, and my coworker was missing. Dispatcher told me to stay on the line, but the call dropped a second later. No service. I didn't dare go outside. Instead, I crouched behind the counter, trying to keep my breathing quiet. That's when I heard it. Slow, deliberate footsteps on the roof. Not footsteps exactly. Too slow, too heavy, like something dragging itself from one end to the other. Then, the front door creaked. Not opened, just creaked, like it was testing itself. I didn't move, didn't breathe. I watched the front windows from my hiding spot, and for a second, just one awful second, I saw a face press against the glass from the outside, not just looking in, pressed against it, flattened and distorted. The smile was still there, wider this time, stretching too far. Cracks spiderwebbed out from where his forehead touched the glass. Then he was gone. The power flickered back on exactly 30 minutes later, like someone flipped a switch. The police rolled up just after that. 2 cruisers and a state trooper. They searched the building top to bottom. No sign of Manny, no sign of the man. The cameras were useless. They'd cut out when the power died. But there was one thing they found that still gives me nightmares. A single bare footprint behind the counter where I'd been crouched. It wasn't a shoe print. It was a foot, but longer, misshapen, like the toes were too long, too jointed, and it was wet, still dripping. I quit the next morning. No notice, no explanations. They never found Manny. The police chalked it up to him walking off the job. Said he probably took off during the storm. But I know that's not true. His car was still in the back lot, keys in the ignition, cigarette half smoked in the ashtray. Sometimes, when I'm driving late at night, I'll see an old diner sign glowing in the distance and get this chill down my spine. I try not to look in the windows anymore because sometimes, just for a second, I swear I see a face looking back, and it's always smiling. I manage a self-storage facility about 20 minutes outside Phoenix, just off one of those lonely desert highways where the air gets still at night and everything feels off. Been working here 6 years, long enough that I know every creak in the fence, every buzz from the security lights. Long enough that the isolation doesn't bother me anymore. Most nights are boring, just paperwork, occasional stragglers dropping off boxes, and the perimeter checks. We've got rows of metal units, some as big as garages, some no bigger than a closet, all padlocked, all under constant camera surveillance. The place is lit up with those pale blue-white floodlights that cast long shadows and make the gravel look like bone. It's quiet work, peaceful even, but that peace shattered about a year ago. It was early November, cold for Arizona. I remember that because I had my jacket zipped all the way up for once. I was doing my rounds like usual, grabbed my flashlight, checked the gates, walked the perimeter, then started weaving between the rows. Around 3:17 a.m., I was halfway through the south row when I heard it. Bang! It stopped me dead, just one sharp, loud hit. I turned slowly. It came again. Bang, bang, bang. Rhythmic, deliberate, coming from Unit 231. Now, we have a strict policy. No living out of the units, no sleeping, no hiding out. You'd be surprised how many people try. Runaways, meth heads, down on their luck types. So I figured maybe someone slipped in earlier, maybe hunkered down for the night. I walked over, boots crunching on the gravel. Facility manager, I called out, you can't be in there. Come out now or I'm calling the sheriff. Silence, I waited. Then bang, bang, bang. Again, same pace, like clockwork. I raised my radio. This is Larry, possible trespasser in 231, requesting assist. Nothing. just static. That was weird. We've got a repeater tower right on the property. I tried again, still static. I wasn't supposed to open any unit alone, company policy. But something about this felt off, wrong in a way I couldn't explain. It wasn't just the banging, it was the cold creeping into my spine, the stillness of the air, the way the other units seemed to lean away from 231 like they knew something I didn't. I made a decision I shouldn't have made. I went back to the office, grabbed the bolt cutters and jogged back over. The padlock was standard issue, no signs of tampering. I clipped it. The metal door groaned as I rolled it up. Empty. Just concrete floors, cracked and dusty. The smell hit me immediately, like rot. Not garbage rot. Something older, deeper, like a grave that had been opened too long. I stepped inside, swept my flashlight around. Nothing but spider webs and dust motes. But the back wall? That's where things got weird. It was scratched up. Dozens, maybe hundreds of deep grooves, like someone had clawed at it desperately, not with tools, with fingernails. The patterns were chaotic at first, then started forming lines, rows of 3 vertical slashes, over and over and over, and mixed in with the scratches was something dark, smudged, dried. I got closer and leaned in with the flashlight. It looked like blood, old, rust brown, and there were streaks, drag marks that ran down to the floor. I stepped back quickly. Then my flashlight flickered, and in that flicker, maybe just half a second, I saw something in the corner, a face, pale, hollow-eyed. It wasn't crouched or standing, it was just there, hanging, like someone had cut a piece of skin into the shape of a face and stuck it to the air. I froze. I don't even remember breathing. Then the light steadied, and it was gone. I locked the unit back up right then and there, didn't even clean the bolt cutter bits off the ground, just slammed it down, slapped a new padlock on, and practically sprinted back to the office. I filed an incident report and left early. First time I'd ever left my post before sunrise. The next morning, I came back and checked the logs. Something didn't add up. Unit 231 was rented out. New tenant, paid cash, month to month. But here's the kicker. They signed the lease at 3:17 a.m. through an online form on a Craigslist link I never posted. Our system doesn't allow rentals without admin approval between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. and there's no auto-scheduler. It had to be done manually. I tried contacting the renter. No number, no name, just an email. eco317@disboxmail.com. I emailed once, no reply. I went to the unit again the next night. The new lock was still on, no signs of life. But around the same time, 3:17, I walked past and stopped dead in my tracks. From inside I heard it. Bang, bang, bang. 3 knocks. I backed away slowly, heart racing, and returned to the office. I stayed there until sunrise, all the lights on, holding my coffee like a shield. For the next few weeks, I avoided that row during night rounds, but curiosity gets to you. One night, I passed it again. The lock was different, looked older, rusted like it had been there decades, and taped to the outside of the door was a note scrawled in faded black marker. Do not enter before 3:17 a.m. No name, no explanation. I reported it to corporate. They brushed it off, said as long as the rent's paid, not my problem. But it's still happening. Every few nights at exactly 3:17, I'll hear the banging. Always 3 knocks, sometimes slow, sometimes frantic, sometimes followed by whispering, like a voice underwater right behind the metal. I've stopped checking it. I pretend it doesn't exist. But last week, I checked the camera feed out of Morbid, 3:17 a.m. exactly. The motion sensor triggered on unit 231, but the footage, just static. Then a single frame before the feed returned, just one. A blurry still of someone standing behind me. Only thing is, I was alone that night. I've worked this job for 6 years. I've seen my share of weirdos, addicts, even a guy trying to store a coffin once, but nothing has ever crawled under my skin like that unit. If you ever rent a storage locker near Phoenix and you see one available at 3:17 a.m., do yourself a favor. Pick a different unit. I've been a night shift nurse for over 12 years, worked in 3 different hospitals across Ohio, all mid-size, nothing fancy. Night shifts got its own rhythm. Fewer doctors, fewer patients, less chaos, at least on paper. You learn to rely on your gut after a while, sometimes more than your training. I'm not superstitious, not really. I've seen plenty of strange stuff. Patients who say the same creepy sentence over and over. ICU monitors flatline, then spike back to life for no reason. Call lights going off in empty rooms. It just comes with the job. You get desensitized. But what happened in that hospital basement in 2020? I put in for a department transfer the next morning. No hesitation. Didn't even finish my shift. It was late April. We were swamped with cases, short-staffed, running on caffeine and sheer stubbornness. Around 4 a.m., I needed a specialized IV kit for a patient in 509 who kept blowing veins. The only one left was in the old supply room, in the basement. Now, let me paint a picture for you. This hospital's basement isn't just a basement, it's like a leftover from the Cold War. Long sterile hallways lined with dented metal doors, exposed pipes overhead, the occasional water stain creeping down a wall. There's radiology storage, an old records archive, a rarely used morgue overflow room, and then way in the back, past all that, there's the maintenance wing. That's where the supply room is. No one likes going down there. Day shift avoids it, night shift dreads it, but we all do it eventually. So I badge in and take the elevator down. Soon as the doors open, I get that weird full-body goosebump sensation, like I just stepped into a walk-in freezer. And the buzzing, those awful flickering fluorescents overhead, was louder than usual, like a wasp nest just humming above your head. I walked fast, eyes forward. I don't even like glancing in the door windows anymore. A few months back, I thought I saw someone standing in the dark in the radiology file room. Tall shape, just watching. I blinked and it was gone. Told myself it was nothing, probably a coat rack. Anyway, I get to the supply room, badge in, find the IV kit. No problem. But as I turned around to head back to the elevator, someone was standing at the end of the hallway. Now I'm not jumpy. I don't scare easy, but this froze me. They were wearing scrubs, but not like ours. These were faded, almost gray-blue, loose and wrinkled, like they'd been hanging in a closet for decades. The name tag clipped to the chest looked like something from an old typewriter label. I couldn't make out the name, but I think it started with a D. They weren't moving, just standing dead still, facing me. I raised a hand and called out, "You need help?" No answer, not a twitch. I took a cautious step forward. That's when the lights started going out. Not all at once, one by one, population on population on population, starting from above me, going down the hallway like falling dominoes, getting closer and closer to that figure. My breath caught in my throat. Then I heard it. Squeak, squeak, squeak. The unmistakable sound of gurney wheels rolling on tile. But the hallway was empty, aside from that one unmoving figure. The lights kept going out, closer, closer. I turned and ran. Didn't care if I dropped the kit. Didn't care if I looked insane. I was sprinting back toward the elevator, heart hammering in my chest, and I swear, as I rounded the last corner, I heard footsteps behind me, heavy, wet, like someone dragging something behind them. I hit the elevator button a dozen times. When the doors opened, I practically fell inside. I mashed the button for the main floor. As the doors were closing, I looked back down the hallway one last time. There was no one there, but just before the doors shut completely, the last light above the hallway popped out, plunging it into darkness. When I got back to the nurse's station, I must have looked like hell. One of the other RNs, Becca, asked if I was okay. I just said basement. That was enough for her to go pale and nod slowly. We called security. They went down, did a full walkthrough. Nobody there, no signs of forced entry, nothing on the motion sensors. But the kicker, when they pulled the security cam footage from that hallway, it was 7 minutes of static, from 3:57 a.m. to 4:04 a.m., exactly the time I was down there. When I brought it up with one of the older nurses during break, she got real quiet, sipped her coffee, then said, "You're not the first to see him." I asked her what she meant. She leaned in and whispered, "Back in '83, there was a fire. Maintenance wing, electrical. One of the night surgeons ran in to help. Guy named Dr. Delaney. Never made it out. They found part of him later near the old elevator shaft. Supposedly he worked every night for years. People say he still does." I laughed, nervously laughed, hoping she was joking, but she didn't smile, just said, "He always stands still until the lights go out." I filed for a transfer to pediatrics the next morning. Day shift. Haven't worked a night since, and I won't. A few weeks later, I overheard one of the interns talking about a strange figure they saw in the basement. Same scrubs, same silence. They brushed it off, laughed about it. I didn't. Because I've heard the gurney, I've seen the lights go out. I felt that cold, dead stare from the end of the hallway. And whatever's down there, it's not done working. If you enjoyed those terrifying legends and stories, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more haunted stories. Until next week, sweet dreams.